find a way. You can kill my mind for flow, hold me till I scream or air breathe, and wash me over until my will runs dry. Send all your sins all over me, baby, baby, right up to the
All right, y'all. I had pre-recorded that because I was actually going to drop a pre-record video, but due to the kids making all types of noise in the background, I didn't want to do y'all like that. So I decided to go live again. But of course, this time we're going to cover this story time, and she's starting to get into the nitty gritty of what's going on. So we left off at 17. We're going to pick up on 18 and go from there.
So we're in the meeting with the prosecutor. It's myself, it's the menace, it's my lawyer, a translator, a representative, a SOFA representative, and 2 CID agents. When the meeting starts, they kick the menace out of the meeting, which I found to be weird. So they're starting questioning and they're going over, the Adderall, how that got here, my prescriptions. I had previously provided all of my prescriptions and everything. And I had just, because they were asking me so many questions before this meeting, I had just provided my whole doctor's case file. I asked my doctor to send me my entire case file, everything I've been prescribed here, and I gave them all of that. So it included everything with my migraines. It just included my whole everything that was going on with me over the years since I've had that doctor, which I think was probably since 2016 or something. So they are asking me all these questions about the medical documentation, about my Adderall, and this questioning goes on for hours. Like, when did you have ADD? When were you first prescribed this medication? When blah blah blah. And this question goes on for hours. So we finally get to the questioning about the fent. I started answering the questions the way the menace wanted me to answer them in the beginning, and then I was like, internally, I was like, I can't do this. I don't want to sit here and lie. So I said, you have to ask the menace about it. I really, truly don't know. I don't have this information. You have to ask him. He said it's his father's. You have to ask him. So they bring the menace into the room and they start questioning him about the fent. And he answers the questions the same way he wanted me to answer the questions. And that pretty much consisted of the medication accidentally got there. It was his father's. We took care of his father, which I never did. And the medication was pretty much on accident. So they asked both of us, had we ever taken fent? And I said no. The menace said no. The menace texted me during this meeting and said, you need to change your answer to not to my knowledge. And I'm like, okay. So throughout this meeting with the prosecutor, the menace is consistently texting me. He's listening in on the meeting, even when he was outside of the room, when he was inside of the room, and he's consistently trying to text me and texting me what to say during this meeting about the fent. And when they ask me about the fent, at a certain point, I'm consistently redirecting the questions back to the menace. You have to ask him. He knows about it. You have to ask him. Don't ask me about it. I don't know. You have to ask him. At the end of this meeting, which probably went on for 8 hours, probably more, this questioning, they asked if I could drug test. And I was like, okay, sure. I was a little bit skeptical about this, obviously, because now I really am not sure if the menace gave me fent. I'm still a little delulu. I'm going to be honest. I'm very delulu at this point, and I'm like, okay, whatever. So they do a urine sample and they do a hair test. Obviously, the urine sample comes back negative, and the hair sample had to get sent off to a lab. I asked my lawyer, I'm like, why aren't you all testing the menace? The menace needs to be tested as well. Why isn't he being tested? And my lawyer tells me that's not how this works. The stuff was found in your bags. So you're the only person that's being tested. You're the only person that's being questioned and tried for this. So after questioning, I'm looking over the paperwork for questioning. I look over it, my lawyer looks over it, and my SOFA representative looks over it. And the main reason why I was looking over it was to be sure that they notated that the menace made statements. My intuition told me to look for that. I looked for it, I checked for it, and they did notate that he made statements. Mind you, the first half of this paperwork is written in Korean, and then the second half they translated into English. So obviously the only one I could read was in English. I had to go through and I had to sign all this paperwork. How you sign paperwork in Korea is you fingerprint every single last page and sign it. So we're leaving the prosecutor meeting. And obviously at this point, I realized that I've completely taken a bid for the menace. I'm the only one on the hook for this fence situation when I should only be being tried for Adderall. The menace is now getting comfortable because he knows that he is now completely off the hook for the fence situation. So the menace is getting comfortable now, and he's starting to tell me what actually happened at the airport. So what happened at the airport was that the menace came into baggage claim. Our bags were already in the middle of the floor when he went down into baggage claim without me. He is telling me that he tried to take his bag and run out of the airport with it, and he was this close to being in a taxi, and security came and ran him down and made him come back into the airport. He is telling me that he somehow managed to get the drugs out of his luggage that he had, which what they picked up from the scanners was a weed pen, but he also had other things. So now I'm looking at him and I'm like, your luggage with the security system, with the alarm system, was still in the airport when I came down to baggage claim and you were not there. So what you're telling me truly is that you tried to run out of the airport and leave me in the airport with your luggage because you know that you got caught, and you tried to leave me there with your luggage checked in my name. That's what you're telling me. And he's like, no, that didn't happen. I had my luggage with me. You were like, I don't know what you saw, but you didn't see that. I had my luggage with me and I took my luggage out of the airport. And I was like, and he was like, I wasn't about to get caught up with that. Like, are you crazy? Da, 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 da. So I'm like, Menace, I know what I saw. I saw the luggage in the airport. And he's like, nah, that's not what you saw. Y'all, in this moment, I can literally feel like this is the first time that I'm actually like really feeling this. I can feel my brain starting to change and switch into like believing what he says and picturing him coming back into the airport with the luggage. I can literally feel my brain switching into that. We'll get into the witchcraft later. So now, at this point, I'm realizing that there is nothing that I could have done. I was going back and forth with myself in the beginning, like I should have just told the truth at the airport. But I'm now realizing that this was always his plan. He always intended to frame me for something and to ruin my life in Korea. He always intended to get me into isolation and completely dismantled everything that I built. That was always the intent. If I just said in the airport that it was his, he would have completely switched the narcissistic switch and had me go to jail right then and there. It didn't matter what I did in the prosecutor's office. It didn't matter if I was just like, all this was a lie. He did all this. He was going to completely flip it on me in those moments. I realized when he starts getting comfortable and he starts telling me these things that this was always in the plans. So now I'm overseas. I'm by myself. I'm with this person who I truly believe will off me if I make the wrong move. And I'm trying to figure out how to get out of this situation. I know now that I have to right my wrong, that I have to come forth. I have to tell the truth, and I have to tell them that all of this information was a lie. And I'm really trying to strategically figure out how I can do this and how I can say, like, everything that he said in this meeting is not true. I truly believe that he brought it over here and it was intentional. He also brought other things over here. All of this was intentional. He always had plans to bring drugs into Korea, and nothing was an accident, as he is saying. So we're in the meeting with the prosecutor. So I believe we're now at part 19 of the Menace saga. So now I'm getting extremely upset because I'm really coming to the terms and coming to the realization that everything that this man said surrounding this is a lie, that this was always the intent. He was always going to try to smuggle something into a foreign country. He didn't learn his lessons from Brittany Griner. I'm trying to figure something out. I'm also upset because the Menace has been around friends and people that I knew in Korea. So not only are you putting my life in danger, you're putting other people's lives and other people's security clearances in danger just by being around, and you just truly don't care about anyone's life around you. So I'm internally trying to figure out how to get out of this relationship. I know that I can't tell the Menace that I want to be out of this relationship. I know that I can't tell the Menace that he needs to go back to the United States. I know this. I know that my life's in danger, and everything I do from here has to be extremely strategic, and I have to protect my life at all costs. Mind you, my family, my friends, besides my best friend, didn't know anything of what was going on. My best friend knew at the time, like, that the Fent issue was an accident. This is what I'm thinking at the time. My brain was literally like forced into believing what the Menace was saying. So I'm going on business as usual. My plans to come over into Korea was to travel, travel Asia, and was to make content about living overseas and travel. So I'm still making content. The Menace is still making sure that he's in specific content. And I'm trying to just act like everything is okay. Nothing's okay at this point. I'm literally crying and having panic attacks every single day because I genuinely don't know what to do. I've never been in a situation like this before. I've never been, up on felony charges. I've never had anything in my background. So I truly don't know what to do at this point. I'm slightly hoping that, whatever the Menace said works. My lawyer is telling me, don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. You're fine. They're going to dismiss this the next meeting with the prosecutor. You're not going to go to trial. You have medical documentation. Don't worry about it. Everything's fine. Don't worry about the fact that he is not, being brought up on charges. It's nothing to worry about. So in the back of my mind, I am plotting and planning. The Menace is obviously making sure that I don't have any time to myself. He is smothering me when I'm leaving out to work. He's rushing down to my car to come to work with me. He doesn't work there. Why he's doing that, I don't know. The thing that pretty much stopped him from coming to work with me was that he started that teaching position. So this leads me to getting a text message from one of his sorority sisters who work on my base. She texted me and she was like, hey, I have a job for the Menace. Can he come in this week for an interview? Blah, blah, blah. I initially did not respond to her, and just out of kindness, I was like, hey, yeah, sure, I'll let him know. I had no intentions on letting him know a thing. So after taking a while, because I think I probably took a few hours to text her back, one of the Menace's frat brothers, not my sponsor, another frat brother who worked on base, calls the Menace and is like, hey, we have a job for you. Can you come down and interview for this position? The Menace comes to me and the Menace is like, you weren't going to tell me about this job. Somebody told you about this job. I need a job. I need a job. I need a job on base. And you weren't going to tell me anything. You just want to ruin my life. And you just want to do X, Y, and Z. And you want to control everything. And you want to make sure that I'm not making any money. No, I want to make sure that you get the hell out of Korea. That's what I want to make sure. But I'm like, I was just like doing stuff. I was moving around. I just didn't have time to tell you because I'm really just trying to hold it together and fake the funk like everything's okay, because I know that I can't let this man know that I'm plotting for him to get up out of Korea. So he goes he's getting prepared one day to go to this job interview. Literally puts on a wrinkled shirt, puts on some jeans, and I'm like, you're going to a job interview looking like that. He's like, oh, the wrinkles will fall out. And I'm like, are you a child? Are you a child? Like, that's how you're going to present yourself at a job interview. I shouldn't have said anything, but I was just really irritated. At this time, also, his other job at the teaching position was pretty much getting on him about how he showed up on camera for teaching and saying that, this is his words, saying that he looks extremely intimidating and that he needs to have a button up. He was showing up to this job with a t-shirt on, hair not done, all this stuff, and the menace is now like, you need to do my hair, you need to do my hair for my job. They're getting on me because my hair is not done, you need to do my hair. I'm like, no, figure it out. Like, figure it out. Put it in a ponytail. I don't know what you want to do, but figure it out. I'm like, I'm done at this point. So I'm like, I don't have time for that. I have other things in my brain. I truly don't have time for that. So he is taking forever to get dressed. I have to go to work. So I'm starting to leave out. I'm like, I don't care. I'm leaving out to go to my job, my federal government job. And I'm leaving him at the apartment, and he runs out the side of the apartment. Like, I have to come up through the garage, and he runs out and pretty much like stops my car so he can get in the car. He's like, you really don't want me to get this job? Da, 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 da. I gave you time. Like, I'm not doing this. I'm not doing this. So he goes to the interview. He comes back and he's like, yeah, I'm about to be making a lot of money. I'm getting all these benefits. I get housing. I get this. I get that. And like, do you want me to move out? Do you want me to move out? Do you want me to just go get an apartment in Seoul? Do you want me to move out and blah, blah, blah? And I'm just like, do what you want. Like, do what you want. So at some point, I look through the menace's phone. I'm trying to see if he has access to my email account, because obviously I've been getting these codes for someone to get into a Gmail account. So I looked through the menace's phone, and what I saw in his phone was text messages of him arguing with his friends, pretty much severing relationships, and telling his friends that he's better than them, that they can't do what he does. He has a federal government position out in Korea, and he'll be leaving the US and he's not coming back. I see a text message between he and his ex-girlfriend. His ex-girlfriend helped him get the job at the mayor's office. There's a text message between them, and he's telling her when he got fired and that he didn't embarrass her in any way, and that because of her, he got a federal government position in Korea. I see text messages between he and his sister, and there's a lot there, but in long story short, his sister is pretty much arguing with him to get his ish together. There are messages between he and P-Toots where he's trying to get P-Toots to come to a hotel, and they're very bottom barrel P-Toots. There are messages between he and other people, and people are calling him a snitch and pretty much saying he's a bitch, and the only reason he has anything is because of his parents. He just has mommy's money, and all he ever is and all he ever will be is a junkie. So now at this point, I realize that the menace, it has taken my life and told pretty much most of the people that he knew that did not know me, that he pretty much told everyone that my life was his. And I see that clear as day in these text messages. So I believe we're now at part 19 of the Menace saga. So part 20 of the Menace saga. At this point, my vision is starting to become very clear. Stopped intercourse, I've stopped eating, I've stopped doing things for the Menace. But outside of that, I'm still kind of acting like, oh, I love you so much. Like, really faking the funk, just playing the game, but I'm plotting. So I wrote notes. He's on the phone with his friends. I'm acting like everything's great. Korea's great. We're having so much fun. Everything's great. So this is now kind of reaching the 2-month mark of being in Korea, and I now have a travel restriction on my passport. Oh, I forgot to add this. I started kind of picking people's brains about them like coming into Korea, how their medications worked, X, Y, and Z. And pretty much the people that I knew who had ADD, ADHD said that they've never had any issues with bringing their Adderall into Korea. They, get all of their prescriptions from base. They've never had any issues. And I'm asking about whether or not they've declared their medications when they come into Korea. And pretty much everyone I know is saying no. Rarely ever declare my medications. Like, I just come in, they look at them. There's like never any issue. So also now I'm realizing that they were just kind of tacking things on to make the charges larger. The issue was never my medication. It was always the fent. So that was one of the things that I did miss in the previous parts of me just picking people's brains. So we're now reaching the kind of like coming up on the 2-month mark of being in Korea. And the Menace has to travel every 3 months in order to stay in Korea. Obviously, I said before, in order for him to stay here the whole time that I was here, we would have to get married. I'm at this point now starting to ask for the marriage license. Where's the marriage license? You had it. I saw it in his book bag when we first got here. I don't know why I didn't take it out, but moving forward, I was asking for the marriage license that neither of us signed. He is gaslighting once again, and it's pretty much saying like, you had it, you lost it, you're always losing things, like you had the marriage license, you need to look for it, you need to find it. Once again, I can feel my brain starting to believe what he says and shifting into his reality, and I'm now fighting back the shift into his reality. I'm fighting that back, and I'm like, no, I saw it in your book bag. I know you had it. Where is it? He doesn't give it to me. He says it's lost at this point. That comes up later, which is why I said it. So he is now making plans to travel out of the country. At this point, I have an eye hold. I have a travel restriction. I cannot travel out of the country. So now, I'm kind of like, okay, this may be a good time for me to successfully leave the Menace and be safe. He'll be out of the country. Also, I'm pissed because I'm like, you really just took everything that I wanted to do. You stopped me from doing everything that I wanted to do in Korea. And now you're going off and doing all of these things that you never even had any plans or intentions on doing prior to meeting me. And I'm having this conversation with him, and I'm like, you really just like took my entire life and you're living it as if it's your own. He has nothing to say. Nothing to say. So he's planning this trip out of the country, and he leaves. I take him to the airport happily, come back home, and I'm now pacing the floors. Like, I'm going back and forth, and I'm going back and forth with myself, and I'm literally fighting myself. Like, do I want to do this? Is this safe? Do I want to leave him in these moments? I'm like, God, give me a sign. Like, give me a sign. So I go over to my neighbor's house, as we met neighbors at some point. My neighbors had agreed to pick the Menace up from the airport. And I go over there, I'm hanging out with them, and I tell my neighbors in those moments that I am leaving the Menace. I'm packing up his things. One of my neighbors came over. She helped a little bit. She went home. And, that was that. I called all of my family and, well, my close family members and my friends back home, and I let them know that I'm leaving the Menace. Still, I'm fighting my brain. I'm going back and forth, and I'm really trying to figure out if this is really, truly what I want to do. So my intuition tells me to call the Menace. Give him a call.
Yeah, my intuition was actually not that nice. My intuition was like, girl, you wanted a sign, you dumbass little girl. Pick up the phone. He's getting his Peter Weeder sucked right now. Pick up the phone.
Which I barely talked to him the whole time he was in this other country. I give the Menace a call, and he's on the phone, and it is very evident that he is on the phone with me having intercourse with someone else in this other country. And I was like, I was kind of pissed. I'm not gonna lie. In those moments, I don't know why. Like, I was pissed, but it was kind of like, you really got me effed up. Like, you really got me effed up. So the Menace pretty much made it very evident that he was cheating. And that's also a manipulation tactic that narcissists use. They do things right in front of you to pretty much break you down and break down your self-esteem. So in these moments, I spoke too soon, and I was like, yeah, you can go ahead and leave. Like, you can just get on a flight straight back to the United States. There's no reason for you to come back to Korea. Your stuff is already packed. Don't come back. I will happily ship your stuff to the house that you have, because you own a house, right? We're done.
So after I told him I was going to ship his stuff back to his home that he apparently owns and is getting rented out, he asked me not to do that because there's no one there to take care of it.
His sister ends up texting me, and she's like, I just don't see the Menace doing this. What you're saying he's doing, it just doesn't make any sense. Blah, blah, blah. Like, I really hope you guys work it out. Blah, 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 blah. And
Keep in mind, this is the same sister that was pissed at him because he was throwing up on her carpet, and he had did something else too. Um, he had did something else besides throwing up on her carpet. That it was something with the car. Like, the car wasn't working right, and she was mad at him, saying like, "You always breaking stuff." Meanwhile, when it's her, now all of a sudden I don't see him doing this type of stuff. Girl, this is the behavior I be talking about. They be helping bums be better bums, because hold your bum ass brother accountable.
and I'm being nice in these moments because I'm just like, I really don't care. Honestly, I ask for her address so I can ship his stuff to his address. She respectfully says she doesn't want it there. So I move on with, just getting stuff prepared. I'm like, I could have said everything to his sister in these moments, but I also didn't want things in writing. I didn't know what the Menace was going to do. I didn't know what he had planned. He obviously already told me that he was going to completely ruin my life if I broke up with him, and pretty much already said that I could never break up with him because of this situation. So my neighbors texted me, and they told me that the Menace changed his flight and that he's coming back into Korea early, and that they're still going to pick him up from the airport. My neighbor was supposed to text me and let me know when they were heading to the airport and when they were coming back so that I could be out of the house. She did not text me this. So, when I got to the point of leaving the house, the Menace had already come back.
So the Menace changed his flight to an earlier day. Mind you, the neighbors are the only people who have this information, so I am relying on them to tell me when the Menace is coming back. They told me that the Menace was coming back late in the afternoon. Well, the Menace ended up getting back early morning. They were supposed to text me and tell me when they were leaving for the airport and when they were coming back. They did not tell me, so now I'm realizing that these neighbors are probably ops.
And he is like ringing my doorbell, like just doing all this stuff. Oh, I had my realtor come over and change the locks and the lock codes and everything on my door. So the menace is back and he's pretty much hanging outside of my door. There was a point in time where I was checking the cameras and I checked them for a while and I did not see the menace outside of my door. Part 21 of the Menace Saga. So after I didn't see him outside of my door for a while, I tried to leave my condo, and the menace was hiding under my camera so that I couldn't see him. So he pushes me back into the house, and I kind of like hurry up and run around him and get out of the house. I get outside, run to my car, get in my car, and I call my realtor. And I tell my realtor to please call the police. The menace is in the house. She's like, how did he get in? We changed the locks. He, pushed me into the house. He's in the house. Like, he cannot be there. So the police come to the house and they are pretty much believing everything the menace says. The menace says that the house is his. The menace is saying that I can't put him out. He is pretty much screaming that we're married. We're married. I can't put him out. We're married. Well, in Korea, they have a law that if you're married to someone, you cannot put them out of the house. I didn't know this. The menace did, though. So he's screaming that we're married. He's screaming that everything in the house is his. He owns everything. He is a teacher. He teaches Koreans. He works for the government. The house is his. And I'm sitting there and I'm like, no, it's not. This is all mine. The lease is only in my name. This is not his house. The police officers are not believing me. I get them on the phone with my realtor, who tells them the same thing. He's not on the lease. The house is not his. It's hers. My realtor is a woman as well. So the police are asking me for my lease agreement. I give them my lease agreement and they tell me that's not enough to prove that this is not his home. My lease agreement only has my name on it. So I'm like, you need to get him out. This is not his home. I'm just going on and on. They're asking for my passport. The menace is now like, do you even have your passport? Do you even have your passport? She smuggled drugs here. So are you going to believe her over me? She's on trial for smuggling drugs. He then tells them that I'm extremely violent and shows them pictures from when I bit him on his neck when he was raping me, and tells them that I'm extremely violent and don't trust anything that I say. So as I'm talking, the police officers are now telling me to shut the F up. Shut the F up. Like, we pretty much don't want to hear you. And I'm like, okay. So I said, since you're not getting the menace out of here, I'll take my stuff and I'll leave. Like, until I can figure this out. Mind you, this week I had a conference to go to. So I had to be somewhere within the next couple of days. So I start packing my suitcase. The menace is flipping over my suitcase, telling the officers that everything that I'm packing in my suitcase is his. He bought all of the stuff in the house and everything is his. He throws my stuff out of the suitcase, takes my suitcase, and is telling the officer that the suitcase is also his. Y'all, this is my suitcase. It literally says Juicy Couture on it. What man have a Juicy Couture suitcase? I don't know. I'm showing the officers that, and I'm like, this is a woman's suitcase. This is a woman's clothing brand. It's my suitcase. They don't believe me. And they pretty much let the menace do whatever he wants to do. He's taking everything out of my suitcase and lying about everything in my house, that I pretty much had all this stuff before I even met the menace. So I'm going into my shoe closet and I'm now trying to pack shoes, just get stuff to have clothes to go to work this week. The menace comes into the shoe closet and spits on me. And now I'm screaming and I'm like, he just spit on me. You all aren't doing anything. That is assault. Y'all aren't doing anything. And the cops are telling me to shut the F up once again. Now, at this point, I have called the cops to my home multiple times to try to get him out, hoping that I would get a new cop and they would understand, or, you know, they would do something else. So the menace is consistently lying to all of the cops, and he's now telling them that everything is his, my car is his, everything is his. So they're now checking all of my stuff and trying to make sure that it's the menace's. The menace is now saying that I stole things from him. I stole his Rolex. I stole his wallet. I stole all this stuff. And I'm like, he just came back in from out of town. How could I have stolen his wallet? Also, his Rolex, his fake Rolex. What do I need with that? They're searching my car, trying to find this Rolex, all this stuff. Meanwhile, the menace is in my home with all of my stuff. Nothing in this house is his except some clothes.
So just a quick note for clarity, I never went back in the house by myself with the menace. Every time I went back into the home this day, I was with the police. But it obviously became completely evident that I was not protected even with the police there.
So I'm back in the house with the police, and I noticed that all the stuff that I packed up for the menace is now back in the house because I put it all outside. And he has like folded his clothes back up, put them up, put all his stuff up, put his shoes back in my shoe closet. Like, he's staying. He's staying.
So also something to note that I missed earlier on is that at the prosecutor's meeting, the menace befriended a CID agent. So ever since he befriended that CID agent, the menace would pretty much use that as leverage over my head. Like if I make the wrong move, he already has CID on his side and he'll use CID against me. So during this time with me trying to get him out of the house, the menace is now screaming at me, telling me that he will get CID involved right now. He's going to text CID right now. He's also telling me that he's going to contact the military police and tell them what I'm doing, tell them that I'm trying to put him out of the home. So, this is kind of where I really realized that this man truly believes that this shit is his. Like that my life is actually his, because you are now threatening me, a government worker, to contact the military police to tell them that I am putting you out of my house that you have no ties to.
So this process goes on for hours. I finally go to the base and I get the military police involved. I didn't want to get them involved at first because obviously, like, I already had so much going on. I didn't want my job involved. I was hoping that I could handle this with he and the Korean police, and that would be that. But that's not how that worked. So I went to the military base to get the military police involved. They ended up calling over to the Korean police and telling them that they need to get him out of the house. The home is property of the US government. He does not work for the US government, and they need to get him out of the house. I go back. They're still asking me for a lease agreement. I go to my office, get the whole big paperwork of the lease agreement, get everything that I've ever signed for the house that only has my signature on it, and I take it back to them and they look over it. They tell me that I cannot come into the house with the menace there, that they will get the menace out themselves. When the menace leaves and I finally go back into my home, my entire home was ransacked, and half of my things were stolen. The menace stole bags, he stole jewelry, he stole clothes, he stole my pink Philips toothbrush, he stole my skincare, he stole whatever he could grab, he stole from my house. And the police just watched him do that, steal a whole bunch of women's items.
What's up,
Part 22 of the Menace Saga. Okay, so some of the things that I missed, I told y'all my brain is jumbled, but some of the things that I missed in the last part, one, everything that the Menace was doing while the police were in my home was to get me out of character. The Menace was trying to do everything he possibly could to get me out of character so he could prove to the police that I am a violent person. He every time I would go into different rooms to get certain things, to pack certain things, the menace was snatching things out of my hand. He was following me into every room, and the police was not stopping him from leaving me alone at all. He was just allowing them to do that. And the menace is obviously taller than me, and he would just stand over top of me while I'm walking. He would like walk on the back of my heels. do all of that to pretty much get me out of character while I'm with these police. So yeah, he did spit on me. Yes, that would have caused the fight, but I couldn't do that in the front of the police with the way that they were already acting. The menace's motive was to get me in jail this day, and I could not let him win. So yeah, obviously the stuff he was doing could have most definitely caused a fight and domestic violence situation, but that's what the menace wanted. That's what he was trying to do. He was trying to bait me into a situation where I was now acting out of character in front of the police, and I wasn't going to let him win. Also, at the end of the night, when I came back with the entire paperwork and everything that I ever signed on the house, the police were still questioning me, and they were now telling me that the menace has proof of our marriage, and they're now telling me that I'm a liar, that I am married, and the menace has proof of it. And I was like, you know what? I don't give a fuck. The MPs, which is the military police, already called you to get him out of my house, and that's what you're going to do. I don't give a fuck. Like, so now we know that the menace hid the marriage license. He forged my signature on the marriage license, and he was using that as leverage to be able to stay in my home. Also, one of the things that I miss, that around the time where the menace was starting to get comfortable and he was starting to tell me about what actually happened at the airport, he also told me a story about how he texted one of his friends, the one who gave him the perks, and asked if the perks were fake, and that person told them that yes, the perks were fake. The menace was now looking at me and was like, I don't know how the perks would have been fake. Like, they know I don't take fake drugs. They know I don't do that. They know I don't do that. So I don't even know why they would have given me fent. So now at this point, we know that the D-rugs are street D-rugs, and they were most definitely always fent. So his story went from prescriptions to possibly his dad's to definitely being street D-rugs from a vendor who intentionally gave him fent, and he didn't know that it was fent. So the police incident, that I believe happened on a Sunday, and that Monday I had to go to work. This is like the first week of May, I believe. So I'm on the phone with my mom, and my mom is telling me, she's like, hey, just come home, take a break for a minute. You need it. Like, you just went through a lot. Mind you, my mom and my best friend were on the phone the whole time the police were in and out of my house. They were on the phone with me all day, and I was giving them updates. They were on the phone while the police were in my house. They could hear everything the menace was saying. They could hear everything the police were saying. So they're literally witnessing what's going on with me in real time. So my mom's on the phone with me. She's telling me to just come home. And at this point, I am breaking. I start to break. I'm crying. I'm scream crying. And I'm like, Mom, I can't come home. I can't come home. The menace just ruined my entire life. The menace smuggled drugs into Korea. He ruined my entire life. I can't come home, Mom. I'm so sorry. I can't come home. So me and my mom are now on the phone crying together. Like, we're crying. My mom's freaking out. This is the first time my mom is hearing anything of what's going on. She just thought that it was a breakup, and I was sick of the menace, because by this time I had already been kind of expressing to my mom, my family, and everyone that, like, I was really getting tired of the menace, but they really didn't know why. They, in my situation, I was just kind of like, he's just out here being a leech. So my mom is like, hold on, like, hang tight, baby. Like, I'm going to get out there. I got to figure out how I'm going to get out there. I'm going to do what I can. I'll be right there. Like, just hold on. Let me get off the phone with you. Let me figure this out. So my mom and I, we end up looking up flights for her to come to Korea. And I sent her the money for a one-way. I was like, Mom, I don't have the money for a round trip right now, but here's the money for a one-way. Here's some extra spending money. Like, just book your flight. We'll figure it out later. We'll get you your flight back once you get here. So now my mom is scrambling, packing, and she's now geared to hop on the first flight coming out to Korea. So at this point, I'm going to work. The menace had a temporary, like, visitor's card. It only lasts for 3 months, and it automatically turns off. He had a temporary visitor's card to get on and off base, because at first we were living on post. So I went to the office that issued that card and had them turn off the card. I let them know that this is an extremely dangerous person. You have to turn off the card. My life's in danger. He has no reason to be here. They turn off the card immediately. And then I go to security. And I'm like, hey, this person is applying for a job on post. My life's in danger. He cannot get that job on post. So the security officer is like, hey, okay, what's his name? And then he's like, oh yeah, his I just got like a notification for his background check or something like that. And I was like, oh, really? Like, what's in his background? And the security officer is like, I can't tell you that. But just know I'm going to handle this for you. And I was like, okay, thank you. Mind you, the menace told me while he was in the process of telling me about this job that it didn't require a security clearance or a background check. Come to find out, it did. So he was never, ever in position to get that job. So at this point, I have to go get work clothes. The menace has ransacked my house. He has stolen half my work clothes. I can't put anything together to go to work in. And the next day, this is Monday. So Tuesday, I have to go to a conference 2 to 3 hours away from my military base. So I'm going to go get work clothes. If you know anything about me, I'm a little on the shorter side, and all of my work pants have to be tailored or they literally drag against the floor and I'm tripping and falling all over them. I didn't have time to do this. So this next Tuesday, I'm now at this conference with my pants just dragging, and I'm trying to hold my pants up so that they're not getting dirty and dragging all over the ground. Before even getting to this conference, the menace was consistently texting me back and forth, and his text messages were going from, I love you so much, like I would never do this to you, I would never cheat on you, to if you don't let me back in the house, if you are breaking up with me, I'm going to ruin your life. You cannot break up with me, I will ruin your life. He's also putting me in group chats with his sister. I end up blocking the menace because obviously I have to focus on work right now. I don't have time for this shit. And I'm at this conference and I'm mixing and mingling and networking with people that I need to know. So I block him. And while I'm at this conference, I'm starting to get like phone calls, just phone calls. One, I'm not answering the phone calls or addressing them in any way, but one of the phone calls stood out to me because it was coming from the military base that I work on. If you know anything about working on military bases, the phone numbers all start with the same digits. So I knew that this was coming from base. So I step out, I answer the phone call, and the lady on the phone is like, hey, the menace is here at the front gate and he's trying to get on post. His card, his visitor card is not working. It will not allow us to let him on. Do you grant him access to getting on post? I was like, no, absolutely not. My life is in danger. He cannot come on post. He has no reason to be there. And she says, okay. And we hang up. I started getting phone calls again from that same number. I answer it, and she's like, hey, he's saying that he has a job on post and he has the right to be on post. Is this true? Like, I'm just trying to figure out what's going on. And I'm like, no, he does not have a job on post. He has no reason to be on post. So at this point, I hang up the phone with her. Someone else calls me from the front gate and they're asking me questions, and I'm like, he cannot come on post. So I was like, you know what? Let's alleviate all of this. I called the head of the security in the front gate. He's the head of the MPs and all of that. So I give him a call. Part 22 of the Menace Saga. Okay, so some of the things that I missed, I told y'all my brain is jumbled. Part 23 of the Menace Saga. So I give the head of security a call. And I pretty much just give him a brief rundown. I'm trying not to put all of my business out there because this is just so much. But I'm like, hey, I'm dealing with a domestic violence situation. I put the menace out of my home. It was a lot. He stole multiple things from my home. I am no longer his sponsor. He cannot come on post. My life's in danger. So the head of security immediately, while I'm on the phone, he calls down to the MPs and he's like, MPs, go down there, confiscate his card. So that's pretty much what happened. So I ended up finding out that the menace was also trying to get on post with his social security. Like, he was doing anything that he could to get on post. So once again, now you're bringing drama to my workplace. Like, I've literally been in Korea for 2 months, and all of this has happened in 2 months. And he's bringing drama to my workplace and at the front gate trying to convince the MPs and convince the front gate staff that he should have access to posts, where when he has no job on post. He isn't affiliated with the federal government at all, and he's a felon. So at this point, I unblock the menace because I want to know what's going through his head. I unblock him. He's sending me a whole bunch of messages. I'm not responding to any of them. He is now telling me that he has to get this job. Don't ruin his job. Don't ruin his chances at this job. And also he needs to get on base to get his tuxedo for his sister's wedding that's coming up shortly. And I'm just like, I'm on the phone with my friends because I'm not responding to the menace. But I'm like, you lose access to me, you lose access to everything that I've granted you. I'm sorry, what? You just did all of that, and now you want me to help you with your tuxedo for your sister's wedding, and you want me to help you and make sure that you're secured and you get a job on the military base that I work on? No. So, mind you, I was never even going to tell this man about this job in the first place. I didn't want him to have the job to begin with. So, the menace at this point is now emailing me, and he sends me an email, and in the subject of that email, it has the prosecutor's email address and it has my lawyer's email address. He sends me an email, and it's pretty much a draft of what he's going to send to the prosecutors and the lawyer. And he tells me that if I don't respond to him by 8 p.m., he'll be sending this email off. The email consists of, I drafted up his father's doctor's note on his computer and sent it from his email and forwarded it and sent it to mine. He also says that I sell drugs and that my intent was to bring drugs into Korea to sell them to Koreans because there's a drug thing that's, ramping up in Korea right now. And so that was my intent on why I brought my Adderall over here and why there was fent in my belongings. He also says that I'm extremely violent and I coerced him into making statements, and once again provides the photos from when I bit him on his neck while he was raping me. He also says that he has video and photo evidence that I do drugs. So he sends me a screenshot of a video that he has of me. If you can remember from parts 1 through 14, the menace was consistently interrupting me while I was stretching, meditating, and doing yoga or trying to journal for myself. The menace was consistently interrupting me. So the menace has a video of me doing yoga. In the comfort of my home, I'm on the floor, I'm stretching in my home, naked, and he sends that video to me and says that he's going to send that to the prosecutors and to my lawyer, saying that I was high in that video. So also, when my friends and family were in DC for my going away party, I was in the midst of hanging out with my friends and family, and the menace randomly sends me a text message and it says, "Do you want perks?" That something about him sending me that text message was just super eerie, and I couldn't put a finger on why. One, the only time I ever required a perk is for my migraines, and my migraines usually lasted for days. So it was just really odd that the menace was sending me and asking me if I wanted perks, especially when I'm hanging out with my friends and family. So the text message said, "Do you want perks?" I didn't respond to the menace in those moments. And then he says, "Hello," because I did not respond to him. My response to him was yes, as in why are you texting me? Mind you, he ruined my going away party. So I'm already irritated. So I'm like, yes. And then he says bathroom or come to the bathroom or something like that. I never went to the bathroom. I never responded to him. I kept going on with my life. So the menace has now screenshotted that text message and he's threatening to send it over to authorities. So in this moment, obviously, I already know that this stuff was a part of his plan, But now I know why I felt very eerie about that message when it was initially sent prior to even coming to Korea. This was always a plan. It was always a plot. It was always a setup. And that's what I'm really, really, truly coming to the realization of. So the menace is now saying that in America, the slang word for fent is perks. And I always knew that I had fent, and I was always taking fent on purpose because the slang word for fent is perks in America. So in the meantime, my mom is arriving to Korea. I go and I pick her up from the airport. We check into a hotel near the airport, and I'm catching her up on everything. I'm also reading the messages from the menace. My mom, in that moment, I wasn't responding to anything the menace was saying. I really didn't care. I think the one response that I ever had to the menace at this point was, I don't give a fuck. Like, do what you want to do. I don't care. Like, you're threatening me and you're trying to get me into a situation where I feel like I have to be with you and I have to stay with you to save my life. And at this point, I don't care. God will take care of it from here. I don't care. But what you're not going to do is put fear in me to stay in a relationship with you. So I think the one text that I had to the menace at this point was, I don't care. So I'm catching up my mom on everything. I'm reading the emails to her, and my mom is like, absolutely not. You need to respond. So I respond to the menace, and my email can pretty much consist of everything that he's done. And it's also telling him that he smuggled, weed and other things into Korea. It's just pretty much outlining everything that he's done. And then it's also saying, you do realize that blackmail, defamation of character, and lying is illegal, right? So I send that message off, and as I'm still updating my mom, I'm in my emails, and I am watching my emails delete before my eyes. So prior, when I went into the menace's phone, I deleted my email from his phone. I signed it out of his phone and deleted my email. So now I'm sitting here and I'm like, how did this man get back into my email? So I'm on the phone with Google at this point, on hold with Google, because the hold was like 4 hours. And I'm in and out of my phone, and I go into the settings and I'm starting to sign out all like his accounts because he is signed in on multiple devices. I'm signing those out. I'm changing my passwords, and the menace is somehow still getting into my email, even after signing everything out and changing my passwords multiple times. He's still somehow getting in. Part 24 of the Menace saga. So after that night, my mom and we get up the next day, and I believe this may be Thursday.
It was actually Wednesday.
At this point, my mom and we get up and we go to the embassy. We call the embassy before we get there, and we're pretty much like, hey, do we need an appointment? Like, what do we need to do? We need to come here. This is what's going on. So we go to the embassy, and they push us to the front of the line. There was no wait at the embassy because of what was going on. And I get to a rep at the embassy, and they pretty much just give me like pamphlets, information. They take my report. They tell me they're going to follow up, and I never got a follow up. Nothing. That's what happened at the embassy. There was nothing there. So the day before, when I was on the phone with the head of security, he was like, I need to come into the office immediately and file a report with the MPs. So now we are heading back to my military base. Mind y'all, in these couple of days, I have gone 2 to 3 hours away to another military base. I've come like an hour or two from that military base to go pick my mom up from the airport. And now I'm heading back to my military base to file a report because the head of security told me that I need to make it a priority to come in and file a report so that we could get the ball rolling on getting the menace banned from the military bases in Korea. So I go back to the MP station to start to file my report. And this is kind of where all of everything kind of starts flooding back in. The military police are asking me about everything that happened in Korea, and I'm going from start to finish about everything that happened in Korea. And now they're starting to ask me about things that happened in DC, like pretty much what led up to this point. Were there any red flags? In the beginning, I was like, no, there really wasn't any red flags. Then they started asking me prying questions, and I was like, oh shit. Actually, I'm sorry. There are a lot of red flags. my memory, it was just like, I just kept getting downloads. Every time they asked me a question, I would think about it and I'd be like, shit. So also, one of the things that the Menace was doing to scare me while we were here, he kept telling me and kept reiterating that he has offed 2 people in DC and got away with it. He murdered 2 people. And when I went through his phone, I remembered, like in this moment at the police station, I remembered when I went through his phone, I found notes in his phone of open case files of murder cases. I took pictures of those on my phone. I hid them. I put them in my hidden photo album on my phone. So now I'm going back into my folders and I'm trying to figure out like how I can prove this information. And those pictures are deleted from my hidden photos album. So I'm obviously reporting to them that there may be some open cases. He may have murdered a few people and they may be cold cases in DC. And we're just going down the list and I'm telling them everything. And I'm consistently getting downloads throughout this meeting. And I'm like, shit, this is when I realized also that I was essayed. My memories from that night start coming back in this meeting. And I didn't have all the memories during this meeting, but I knew for a fact that I had been essayed. So that's happening. And the military police are now like, okay, well, we need to talk to CID. We need to tell CID what's going on. I was like, I don't know. There is a person in CID who is friends with the Menace. They have been hanging out. They've been going out to dinner. They've been going out and getting drinks together. Like, can you just please be sure that you don't meet with this person? They asked for his name. I didn't know his full name, but I knew a description of him and I knew his first name. So I provided that to the MPs. After this, the police are telling me that they're going to look into the Menace's background and they're going to pretty much do what they can to get the Menace out of here. In the meantime, the police are now telling me that they have to transfer my case to the KMPs. The KMPs are the Korean National Police. Obviously, I've already had a bad spell with them. I really didn't want to do this. I wanted the military police to handle it, but they said that it was out of their jurisdiction because I lived off post. Had I lived on post, and had I been married to the Menace, it would have been a lot different. But because I was not married to him and he had no affiliation to the US military and the US government, there was not too much that they could do with him because he's just a random civilian in Korea. So now from here, I'm going to the KMP station and they're ping-ponging me back from different stations. They're saying, this is out of my jurisdiction. This is out of my jurisdiction. And none of them are pretty much taking my case. So obviously I'm back on the phone with the MPs and I'm like, I've been running around all day. No one's taking my case. Like, what's going on? The military police step in again and they tell the Korean police, take her case. Obviously at this point, I'm starting to feel a little protected by my job. I don't feel any protection from the KMPs, but I feel some sort of like security and protection from my job. Now I'm at a Korean police station that is now taking my case and I'm at the right jurisdiction. This is a police station that I had already been to and they turned me away before. So I'm now able to kind of sit down and start telling them what's going on. This is at this point, like at nighttime, I believe, maybe on a Thursday, I believe, and it was like nighttime. So I'm starting to tell them about the domestic violence. And prior to this day, maybe a week or two prior, and I believe it may have been a week prior to me putting the Menace out, there was a huge domestic violence situation that happened at a hotel room. So pretty much what happened is that the Menace dragged me out of bed by my hair, dragged me across the floor, broke the, like there was a sliding mirror door in the hotel room. He broke that door because he pretty much slammed me up against it, picked me up by my hair and started banging my head up against the wall. I was trying to get out of the hotel room. I was trying to get away from him. I was trying to get down to my car and I was trying to leave him. And the Menace kept following me. He would not allow me to leave the hotel room. He wouldn't allow me to do anything. Finally, as I feel defeated, I can't get away from the Menace. The Menace is not allowing me to leave. Also, I at some point got into the car and I was trying to get away. The Menace hopped into the car and he's now screaming at me, I can't leave him. I can't leave him. He's going to ruin my entire life.
If he has to be leaving Korea, I'll be leaving too.
He's going to frame me for everything. So there is a camera in my car that pretty much records everything because you need those in Korea. The menace realizes that that camera is going, and he snatches the camera out of my car. We go back into the hotel room because he's literally, I'm trying to get back into the hotel room and not let him into the hotel. He's on my heels the whole time. So now I feel defeated. I can't get away from the menace. He's not allowing me to get away from him. I go to sleep on the couch that's in the hotel, and the menace picks me up and slams me, and my head hits the bedside table near the bed, and it breaks the lamp in the hotel room. So I'm now reporting this to the station, and now they give me a wristwatch, and it looks like a smartwatch, and it's there to like if anything happens or if I see the menace, I can press a button and the police come immediately. So they give me that. We get the process rolling on getting my protection order against the menace. And that's pretty much all we can do at this point because it's nighttime and they're telling me that I have to come back the next day because I have to sit down with a translator. So when I get to my house, I think maybe this is like Friday, maybe I'm not completely sure, but I believe this is Friday. I had my realtor come over to change the locks again on my doors. Also, the lock on my door is electronic. So while the menace was in my home with the police, he dismantled the lock to make it impossible for me to get into my home while he was there. So my realtor is also there to fix the lock. She also had to add my mother's fingerprints to the door. So in Korea, you can get into your homes from fingerprints at certain places. So she was doing that. My realtor at this point starts checking the cameras from my home, my doorbell camera. In the minutes from Sunday to this Thursday or Friday that we're in the house with the realtor, he has come back to my house every single day, and he has been ringing the doorbell on my home. Mind you, this whole week I've been staying in a hotel. So he's been back at my house, pretty much stalking my house this whole time. The realtor is also going through the cameras, and we realized that the menace has had women come into my home while I was at work. So we also see that on the camera. Another thing that we see is the neighbors. They were there when the police were there getting the menace out of the home when I wasn't allowed to be in the home. Part 24 of the Menace saga. So after that, so many red flags. Part 25 of the Menace saga. So it's important to note that everything that the Menace is doing, has been doing, and is doing to this point is purely out of envy, purely out of control, and just purely to ruin my life. That was the intent. So my lawyer has already told the Menace and I that this situation is going to be done the next prosecutor meeting. It will not go to trial. You'll be fine. The most you'll get is a fine. So at this point, I'm obviously inclined to just stick to the script. I know that's not the best thing to say, but that's my truth. To just get out of this situation, and if whatever the whole lie that the Menace concocted, if that works, then hey, I can be done with this, and I can be done with the Menace, and I can move on with my life. That's what I'm more inclined to do at this point. The Menace knows that. I know that. So everything that he's doing is just throwing me. He couldn't kill me. He tried to kill me with perks. He tried to kill me by drugging me. So since that didn't work, he's now trying to ruin everything that I have built. That's where we're at now. So now I am back and forth from the KMP station, and I'm back and forth to the MP station. I'm now sitting down with the MPs. I'm finishing up stuff with them, updating them on everything. And I'm with the MPs, and my lawyer sends me over an email and a text message basically saying that the Menace has sent he and the prosecutors an email. That email consists of everything that I've already told you that he was planning to send if I didn't get back with him and didn't respond to him by 8 p.m. So he sends that email over. 2 days later, the Menace retracts that email and says that everything in that email was a lie. His ex-wife hacked into his email and wrote that email and sent it to them. Everything was a lie. The text messages and the video evidence and all that stuff that he sent over was from before he knew me, and the text message was edited to say my name. He says that he would never do anything like this, that he and I are getting married, and that he would never do that to his future wife. Mind y'all, I have not talked to the menace at this point. The menace is still trying to get in contact with me. He's trying to contact me from other numbers. He has created email accounts to get in contact with me on. It's pretty much spiraling back and forth about how he loves me, how like we need to be together for this. And yeah, all of that. He loves me and he's threatening me. It's kind of going back and forth, ping-ponging back and forth from those two things. Also, y'all, I have no knowledge of the menace having an ex-wife. So he's just still like inserting lies anywhere he can. Now I'm with the MPs, and I'm thinking that the menace has to be running from something. The way that he's acting, he has to be like running from something or trying to get away from something. The way he's trying to like grasp at straws to stay in Korea. Because why are you even still here at this point? You should have went back home. So I asked the MPs like, hey, did you check into his background? And they were like, yeah. I said, okay, does he have any warrants for his arrest? And they were like, he's definitely had a lot of warrants for his arrest. I'm like, okay. What's in his background? They go, we can't tell you what's in his background. We can't do that. But there's a lot there. In Virginia. I'm like, Virginia? Mind you, I have told the MPs that the menace was born in Washington, D.C. So they're now like, wink, wink, Virginia. I'm like, okay. Now I'm back at the KMP station and I have a translator with me. The MPs told the Korean police to give me a female translator. So that's what I have. Thank God for the MPs. Thank God for my job. And everybody at my job who band together to, just have my back. Thank God for them. So I'm at the KMP station and we're, moving forward with filing this report, pressing charges on the menace. The MPs told me not to bring up the situation at the airport because if I brought that up with the KMPs, they would immediately judge me and probably would just do something weird with my case. So I'm starting to tell them about the stalking because now we have evidence that this man has been stalking me. He's been showing up to my job and he's been showing up to my home. I am pressing charges for the theft of my house. And I also am pressing charges for the domestic violence. So I start telling the Korean police about the domestic violence at the hotel. So they're like, okay, we'll get the CCTV footage from that. I'm like, I really don't know what's on the CCTV footage from the hallways and stuff because the domestic violence happened inside of the hotel room. But I did tell them that I was running from them. If they could get the audio, there was no audio, but if they could get the audio, they could obviously hear the menace threatening me, things like that. There was no audio. So we're moving forward with that, and we're moving forward with getting a warrant for the menace's arrest. But in order for that warrant to go out, this case had to go to the prosecutors, and everything that I said had to be proven true before a warrant could go out for the menace's arrest. They also have to call the menace into the police station to sit down with him as well. The KMPs are now asking me, what evidence do I have for domestic violence? Obviously, y'all, I took pictures from the domestic violence that happened in DC with the grape situation, with me having bruises all down my legs and having bruises on my arms. And I also had pictures from bruises that occurred in Korea. I go into my phone to get those pictures to send them over to them, and they are all gone. They're deleted. The menace has deleted every bit of evidence that I have against him from my phone.
If you're ever dealing with a narcissist, please be sure to keep any evidence that you have against them off of any personal device or any device that they've ever had access to. Keep it on your work computer, print it out, put it somewhere that they don't have access to, somewhere outside of your home that they don't frequent.
MPs at this point are obviously like, it's okay, like, we believe you. We're going to try to get what we can. We're going to look at CCTV footage from your home, and we're going to look at CCTV footage from the hotel room. So I'm done with that particular meeting at the KMP station. We're going to come back to them because I have to go to this KMP station so many times throughout this process. So we're done with that, and I immediately hop on the phone with my best friend. I hop on the FaceTime with her, and I'm like, bestie, look in Virginia. Look for his criminal record in Virginia.
In Korea, I could not access US government websites without a VPN. And even after I did end up getting a VPN, it was still hard sometimes for me to get into government websites in Korea. So, I mean, in the US. So that's why I had to call my best friend to do this.
So we're on FaceTime, she's sharing her screen, and obviously we start finding his criminal record in Virginia. I'm screenshotting that, I'm sending it over to my lawyer. A lot of what we found there was D-Rug related, obviously. So at this point, I'm talking to my best friend, I'm talking to my mom, and we are kind of going back and forth as to whether or not I should hit up people from his past and hit up his exes. We're kind of like, it might not be a good idea. They might not be willing to talk. Like, it just may not be that good of an idea. So now I'm like coming to the conclusion that this is a spiritual attack. This is a spiritual attack. I don't know what to do, but I just feel like this, like what's going on is just completely out of the flesh. Like it's just unworldly to me. I end up kind of sharing some of this information with some of my family members. And one of my family members is like, absolutely reach out to the exes. If anything, they're just going to tell you they don't want to talk, but at least you tried. Absolutely reach out to the exes. Part 25 of the Menace saga. So it's important to note that everything that the Menace is doing. Part 26 of the Menace saga. So I reach out to some people in his past and I get in contact with his exes. So one of these exes I ended up getting on the phone with, and we got on the phone for hours. We were initially like just talking over social media, and she was like, girl, we need to get on the phone. So we get on the phone, and y'all, I swear to you, I think me and this girl was on the phone for like 8 hours, probably more. Correction, it was 12 hours. Yeah, we had a lot to talk about, y'all. I don't even know. We were on the phone for a long time. And we were just pretty much powwowing, like we realized we pretty much went through the same situation. We were each other's support. Like, swear to you, love this girl down. Okay. Me and her ended up talking every single day for months. I'm not going to tell her story. That's her story to tell if she ever chooses to tell it. But she was a lot of help throughout the situation. And I think like we were just both healing and we were just able to kind of figure some things out with each other. So I did ask her a few questions. And one of the things that I asked was about the Schmurders. Had he ever schmurdered anyone? She said no, she doesn't necessarily think that's true. She thinks that was just like something that he was using to scare me, like a scare tactic. She's not sure if that's true, but she doesn't think it is. I asked her about the D-Rugs, obviously. And this is where I found out that the Menace takes fake D-Rugs, and one of his addictions is Fent. So it was always Fent. It was never anything else. It was always Fent. So that happens, and then I end up finding out that he is addicted to PCP. He's addicted to Fent. He's addicted to coke. He's addicted to lean. Also, in this conversation, the ex tells me to be careful. She says that some of his family members, these are like fake family members, fake aunts and stuff like that, they are into witchcraft. She didn't use the exact term witchcraft, but she was just like, be careful who you have on your social media. Just keep a lookout for who's watching you because some of them are into witchcraft. So now we're gearing up to the second prosecutor's meeting. This meeting, so my first prosecutor's meeting was at Incheon International Airport, and then my second one was transferred to another city in Korea, or whatever they call them here. Here's the email for that. You can pause to read, and then regulations down below. Honestly, prior to getting to this meeting, I'm talking to my lawyer, and I'm updating him on what happened. that the menace did all of this. And then I'm also like, look at the emails he sent you. He sent you a text message thread asking me if I want perks. If that doesn't implement him, I don't know what does. Obviously, he's the person who always had perks. If he has to ask me if I want them, he's the person in possession. I'm also like, he's clearly spiraling. The first email he sent, he said all of that stuff just to retract it and say that it was all a lie. Then I'm also telling my lawyer to get the fingerprints and to get the DNA test on the rugs. Get the fingerprints and get the DNA test. Let's end this. Get it. Tell my lawyer all of that. So we get to this prosecutor meeting and my lawyer pulls me to the side in the beginning and he's like, I think you should just stick to the story. Stick to the story you already had. If you don't stick to that story, you're definitely going to trial. I think it's best for you to just stick to the story. So we go into this prosecutor meeting and they start asking me all the same questions about the Adderall and all this stuff. We take a break after the Adderall questioning and my lawyer pulls me to the side again and he goes, the menace sent those emails to the first prosecutors in a different location. I don't think that these prosecutors have them. Stick to your story. Don't change your story or you're going to trial. So obviously I'm inclined to tell the story because when I tell y'all I was about to go in there guns blazing and tell every freaking thing, that's what I was going to do. My lawyer said don't do that. So I didn't. Now we go back into the meeting and they're starting to ask me about defend. And I'm immediately like, I didn't answer these questions in the beginning. You have to ask the menace. You have to ask the menace. You're going to have to sit down and talk to the menace about it. I didn't answer these questions. So the prosecutors are now like, we have it right here that you answered the questions. You answered these questions. And I'm like, no, I didn't. No, I didn't. And so they're like, have you ever taken fent? And I was like, no, not to my knowledge. Now, not to my knowledge, not that I'm aware of. No. And they were like, did the menace ever take any rugs? And I'm like, I'm pretty sure he has now. Yes. So they were like, well, the first prosecutor meeting, you said that the menace didn't take any rugs. And I said, I never said that. That was a question directed to the menace. He answered that question. Why would I answer a question for the menace? So I'm looking over at my lawyer. My lawyer's not saying anything. And now I'm looking at the translator and I'm like, you were there the first meeting. Say something. Why are they saying that I answered questions that I didn't answer in the first meeting? You're the one who translated the documents. She's like, I really don't remember. I really can't remember everything you said. And I really can't remember everything the menace said. Okay, so you're identifying that the menace made statements, right? That's what we're doing? Are you identifying that he made statements? I really can't remember. So I'm now kind of going in on the translator and she's like, that's not how this works. That's not how this works. You're the one who's being questioned about this. You're the one who's being tried about this. It was in your belongings and all of the statements go under you. We did not separate the statements. They all are things that you said, or they all are presented as things that you said. And I was like, no, that's not true. I looked at the documents. You identified when the menace made statements. And now you're saying that he didn't make any. Is that what we're doing? So obviously I'm pissed. I am pissed in this meeting. So they end up bringing out my rug test results. And obviously my rug test results come out positive. And they're like, why are these results positive? Because the menace gave me perks for my migraines. That's why they're positive. They're like, it's just this whole thing. And I'm irritated. We end up ending the meeting. I'm irritated. There's a lot that went on during that meeting. I don't even want to go into all of it, but there was a lot. And pretty much they were pinning all of the menace's statements on me. That's long story short. And so now I'm in a position where I'm like, I need to fire my lawyer. Because you sat there and you let this happen and you never came to bat for me. You never said anything and you never corrected them or identified which statements the menace made versus which statements I did. And then this freaking translator, the translator who translated the documents is all of a sudden has amnesia. Okay. Part 26 of The Menace. Part 27 of the Menace saga. So after leaving this prosecuting meeting, I'm obviously get the ball rolling with trying to get another lawyer. I'm like, I need to fire this lawyer. This lawyer's not good for me. And I'm contacting my job and I'm like, hey, I need another lawyer. Like, how do I get the ball rolling on this? They're telling me that I have to contact lawyers off the list. So when this first happened, there was a list that they sent me of Korean lawyers who are, I guess, zoned to work for the military. So I had to look for another lawyer on that list. Well, I'll start contacting other lawyers on that list. They're not taking my case because this other lawyer who's on this list already has my case. So they're pretty much not crossing paths with them. I guess they're a community and they weren't crossing him. So that happens. So from here, I get on the phone with the lady. Y'all, I did talk to the lady. Okay. So this person came recommended. I get on the phone with her. First thing first, we're on FaceTime. First thing first, she says, you're in a situation because someone else put you there. And I was like, yes. She was like, is this a court case? Yes. What's your name? What's his name? What's your birthdays? First shot into the combo. This is what it is. So she goes, oh, he put roots on you, sweetheart. And I was like, huh? She was like, he put roots on you. She was like, just think about it. All the stuff that you went through, all the stuff that you let slide, everything that you've been through, you would have never in a million years gone through that. He is also not the type of person that you would pick. He put roots on you. She was like, you need to get a cleanse, like immediately. She goes on to say, he cloaked you. And I'm like, what? She's like, he cloaked you. He pretty much did something on you where you are now showing up in his aura and he's showing up in your light. So when you go and you speak to people who aren't spiritual, who don't know you, they're going to see him. They're going to see the manipulative liar that he is. And when people talk to him, they're going to see your characteristics. And I'm just like, what? She's like, you need to get that off of you. He cloaked you. She also goes on to say, this lawyer you have, get rid of him. He's going to ruin everything for you. The work's already been done on him. Get rid of him. He's not good for you. She goes on to say, I wrote notes about the things she says. And she says, you're going to realize that people are going to lie. There are going to be documents that are missing. People are going to remove documents from case files or lie about the contents of documents in case files. People are not going to do their jobs. The police aren't going to do their jobs. Your lawyer's not going to do their jobs. And everyone pretty much surrounding this situation isn't going to do their jobs. If they had done their jobs, this would have been done a long time ago. They would have figured out that it was him and not you. So yeah, she goes, they're going to tamper with evidence and lose vital evidence surrounding this. You need to get a cleanse. She also says that you were under mind control. So she was like, you're going to realize that you have lost a lot of memory. You're going to lose a lot of memory. And when you're talking to authorities, when you're talking to people, you're just going to randomly lose memory until this is off of you. I'm like, okay. So she's like, yeah, we need to get some work done on you. So, I'm asking about how much it is. She's like, I'm going to tell you now, it's expensive, hon. I know that you're doing a lot for this case, but it's expensive. And I'm like, okay. So from there, I end up going to someone that I know that I also trust. I don't know why I didn't think about going to this person before, or I think I did, but I talked to them briefly and not really about everything. So from there, I end up going to someone else that I've known for a very long time, and that person ended up putting protections over me. That person put protections on me, and that person opened up work. And so, yeah. From these conversations as well, They were like, your trial is going to end in February. Don't worry about anything. You're going to be fine. Everything's going to end in February. Okay. So I went to the second lady, and then I went back to the first lady, because the first lady just spoke in terms that I understood. I craved to talk to her because I could just understand everything she was talking about. The second lady, I could understand her as well, but the first person just spoke to me directly. Like, I didn't have to think too much. So when I go back to her, she ends up saying, okay, you're protected now. Like, you're fine. They can't touch you anymore. Mind you, I didn't tell her that I went to someone else to put protections on me. So this second meeting, she instantly knows that I'm now protected and that they can't touch me anymore. She goes, you're protected now. They can't touch you. They can't mess with you like that anymore. But I need you to know that they're doing stuff over the people around you. So you're going to notice that, she was like, please don't trust anyone in this time. You're going to notice that people around you are going to want information. They're going to try to gather information from you, but they're only using that to help the other side. She said, they're going to do work on the courts. They've already done work on your lawyer. They're going to do work on the courts. They're going to do work on the judges. They're going to do work on the prosecutors. So keep that in mind. So I asked her, did he do this himself? Like, he did this? And she was like, no, he's stupid. He's too dumb to do something like this. He didn't do it. People close to him did it. Like, and she goes, does he have aunts or something like that? And I was like, yeah, but they're not blood relatives. She was like, that doesn't matter. So I showed her pictures of the people who I knew who were connected to him. And immediately she's like, oh, you got problems on your hands. You got problems. I also asked, why would he do this? Like, why would he do all of this? And she was like, he knew that at some point you were going to realize who he was. At some point, something was going to fade. You were going to realize. And so he had to do something to keep you there. She goes, don't think for one second that this wasn't a plot. It was all planned. He was going to do this regardless. And as you know, we've already kind of come to those conclusions. Also, what was said was that you are protected now, but until you fully cleanse, that doesn't mean that some of the effects won't still linger and you won't still deal with some of the things that they've put over you. I also asked, when did this happen? And she said, from the very beginning. It happened in the very, very beginning. And that brought me back to the Menace posting pictures of me on social media in the very beginning, and his aunts calling him, and they were saying, that's the one for you. That's the one you're going to get married to. I can tell that that's the one. Da, 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 da. In those moments when they were doing that, something was just really weird and off about that, because you don't know me, you don't know anything about me, and from a picture you're now saying that I'm going to marry the Menace. That was odd. So that just brought me back to a flashback of that, and that's probably when the work started. Also, we did talk about destiny swapping, and obviously that kind of coincide with the cloak situation. So he did try to destiny swap with me. And she, at the end of it all, she was just like, don't beat yourself up. She was like, there was nothing you could have done to get out of this. There was nothing that, you could have done to change it. This was just a part of their plan. So don't beat yourself up. You went through all of this because they put all of this work on you. So yeah, that is my witchcraft story that you all have been asking for on the lives. So now, obviously, we know that every time I had memory loss, or every time I was in the middle of the conversation and could feel like my memory and my brain kind of switching into what he was saying, that was a part of the mind control. And then everything else, I'm sure y'all could put that together.
Child, crazy. Hold on. Hopefully I'm not making too much noise. Let me go on mute real quick. Hold on. Okay. Child, you see how it is, right, Mary? house full of witches. It's just crazy how it was set up so that everything voted in his favor. You know what I'm saying? Like, it would make one think like, oh, she must be the problem. The neighbors are helping, the lawyer's on his side, this person's on his side, that person's on his side. Nah. And I agree. I think witchcraft is very real. Just like when there's a good, there's a bad. When there's a up, there's a down. In my opinion, my belief is that there's a God, which means there has to be evil. So it seems like they done, and the fact that the quote unquote aunts was like, that's the one, and then she's gonna be your wife and all of that is just, it's weird. It's very weird. Whew. We're at 27. We're gonna have to pick it up. We've been on here almost 2 hours, so we're gonna have to break it into another one. I think there's about, I think we can finish the next one in one go. I have to double check, but we should be able to finish it in one go. But y'all see how crazy this story is? Like destiny swapping. And I think if you think about what he said about his ex too, he said he took on his ex's persona as far as, oh, I'm from DC. I had to bring her around so that people didn't mess with her and da 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 da. And she somehow probably broke out of the trance or broke out of it somehow, some way. And then he turned around and tried to do it with her. So, or maybe I don't know, whatever. I don't know what it was with the ex, but either way, even with her, he did the same thing. It was like he was trying to find somebody to destiny swap with. But y'all let me know what y'all think about this story in the comment section. Let me know what you think of all of this. Y'all hear the baby in the background, child. I tried. Don't forget to like and subscribe. I'll catch y'all in the next one. Peace.
Listen, I like chocolate girl, all shades, different flavors. She a diamond and a pearl. She a goddess with a mentor, yeah. Cinnamon swirl. She relate to what I've been through, yeah.